Today we are embarking on the journey through the intricate family trees of genetics with the very exciting topic of pedigree analysis. We are unlocking the hidden mysteries of pedigree, understand the pattern of inheritance, and discover how this valuable tool can shed light on the genetic mysteries of the families. So grab your magnifying glasses because we are about to uncover the stories written in our DNA. So let's jump right in the world of pedigree analysis. So learners, first we will see what is pedigree analysis. So when we talk about the pedigree analysis, pedigree analysis is the study of a particular trait that is inherited from one generation to the next generation. That analysis is known as pedigree analysis. Talking about the significance, so it helps to know the inheritance of the particular trait and also know whether the trait is actually inherited or not. And the diagrammatic representation of pedigree analysis is known as pedigree chart. So it helps in the pedigree analysis. There are certain symbols, and these are the symbols which actually helps in the pedigree analysis. It is also in the NCERT book. Now for an example, if this is the pedigree chart, here it means this is the generation 1, this is the next generation, this is the normal male, and this circle is the normal female. Here this filled black square means the affected individual, means the affected male. If the circle is filled with the color, that means it is affected female. So in that way we can analyze the pedigree of the family, and that graphical representation, that diagrammatic representation of the pedigree of the family is known as pedigree chart. Now let us move on some tricks to solve the pedigree problems. So learners, there are 4 types of mode of diseases. The very first one is autosomal dominant, means the gene for the disease is located on autosome. They are located on the autosome. In your earlier classes, we have studied about the 2 types of chromosomes. The very first one is autosome and second one is allosomes. Allosomes are also known as sex chromosomes, right? So when we talk about the autosomal dominant का मतलब होता है कि जो जीन है डिजीज का, that is located on the autosomes, right? And dominant means the gene for the disease is able to express itself, right? In terms of expression, it is dominant. The another category is the autosomal recessive. Again, autosomal means the gene for the disease is located on the autosome and they are not able to express themselves. Third category is X-linked dominant. X-linked का मतलब होता है sex-linked, means the genes for the disease is located on the X chromosome and in terms of expression they are able to express themselves. The fourth and last category is the X-linked recessive, means the gene for the disease is located on the X chromosome and they are not able to express themselves. So there are 4 types of mode of diseases. What are those 4 types of mode of diseases? The first one is autosomal dominant, second one is autosomal recessive, third one is sex-linked dominant, and fourth one is sex-linked recessive disease. Now here we are talking about some of the important features, some of the important properties of all these 4 modes of disease. Because here we are not going to solve the pedigree problems from starting to the end. We are not going to solve the pedigree problems. We are only looking at some clues, and by the help of those clues we are able to know that what kind of disease transfer is this. So let us start with the very first one, that is autosomal dominant. We are going to just look at some clues, and whenever we find some clue, whenever we find some hint, we can tag the pedigree with any of these 4 mode of diseases. So let us start with the very first one, that is autosomal dominant. So when we talk about the autosomal dominant means, dominant trait means they generally do not skip generation. Means in each and every generation, at least one individual is affected. Like, let us suppose in generation 1, a single person is get affected. In generation 2, again 2 individuals are affected. In generation 3, again one individual is affected. In generation 4, again one individual is affected. So in each and every generation, at least one individual is affected with the disease. So that is the very important clue for the dominant disease. So it is a very high clue for the autosomal dominant trait. The second important feature is affected person can have unaffected children. So see learners, both the parents are affected, but their children are not affected. They remains unaffected with the disease. So it is a very high clue, it is the very important clue for the autosomal dominant. पर generations की skipping नहीं होती, means dominant disease है. और जब parents affected होते हैं और children unaffected होते हैं, तो it means that it is a autosomal disorder. Talking about the example, Huntington disease and achondroplasia is the example for autosomal dominant. Talking about the second category, that is autosomal recessive. The very first important clue is the skip generation. Means there is the skipping of generation. It is not like that in every single generation any one of the individual, at least one of the individual is get affected. It is not like that. It is truth for the dominant character, it is truth for the dominant disorder, but it is not true for the recessive one. So there is the skip of generation. Let us suppose if the gene is found in generation 1, it is skipped in the generation 2. Right? It is found in the generation 3, it is skipped in the generation 4. So whenever there is the skipping of generation, it means it is a very important clue for the recessive trait. And the second important feature for the autosomal recessive is unaffected parents can have affected children. So this is again a very important feature, the very important clue for the autosomal recessive disease. There is the skipping of generation and unaffected parents lead the affected children. Right? So by these clue we can find out the pedigree of the family. Right? Talking about the example for autosomal recessive is the cystic fibrosis and sickle cell disease. Moving towards the third category, that is sex-linked dominant. The very first important feature, that disease never transfer from father to son. So learners, when we talk about the sex-linked disease, means the gene is located on the sex chromosome. और जितने भी X linked disease होते हैं, they follow the criss-cross pattern. Now, there is a question might arise in your mind that what is this criss-cross pattern? So when we talk about the criss-cross pattern, means the disease is transferred from father to daughter and from mother to son. मेल से जीन ट्रांसफर होता है फीमेल में और फीमेल से ट्रांसफर होता है मेल में. It is never transferred from father to son. It always transfer from father to daughter and mother to son. Second important feature, that all daughters of affected father will be affected. जितनी भी daughters affected father से होंगी, they all are affected. How it come possible? Now, as it is sex linked disease, so the gene is located on the sex chromosome. Father यानी male के अगर sex chromosome की बात करते हैं, it is denoted as X and Y, and father is affected. So father is affected, so that gene for the disease is located on एक्स क्रोमोसोम, तो इसको हम एक्स क्रोमोसोम पे लगा देते हैं. फादर से ही एक्स क्रोमोसोम जो है वो डॉटर में ट्रांसफर होता है. Wherever this X chromosome goes, so means all the daughters of the affected father is being affected. So this is the very important clue for X-linked dominant disease. Talking about the example, so example is vitamin D resistant rickets is the example for X-linked dominant disease. The fourth category, the first important clue is males are more affected than the females. जो X linked, जो sex linked disorder होते हैं, जो sex linked disease होते हैं, वो comparative to female males में देखने में ज़्यादा मिलते हैं, males ज़्यादा affected होते हैं. And this transfer again it follows crisscross pattern, mother to daughter and from mother to son. Disease never transfer from father to son. The important example that is hemophilia and color blindness, right? So let us move on some of the important questions. अब यहाँ पे हम देखेंगे कि कैसे इन सिंपल ट्रिक्स से, ये जो ट्रिक्स मैंने आपको यहाँ पे बताई हैं, ये जो 4 मोड ऑफ ट्रांसफर ऑफ डिजीज के ये जो क्लूज आपको मैंने समझाए हैं, कैसे हम इन क्लूज से बिना सॉल्व किए पेडिग्री को एनालाइज कर सकते हैं. तो देखते हैं कि किस तरीके से व्हाट इज द पैटर्न ऑफ इनहेरिटेंस डज दिस ट्रेट फॉलोज. अब अगर हम यहाँ पे देखते हैं तो इस फैमिली में स्किपिंग ऑफ जनरेशन नहीं है, इस फैमिली में स्किपिंग ऑफ जनरेशन नहीं है. मीन्स दिस डिजीज इज व्हाट? दिस डिजीज इज डोमिनेंट डिजीज, राइट? अब हमें ये देखना है कि ये ऑटोसोमल डिजीज है या सेक्स लिंक डिजीज है. तो सबसे पहले हम देखते हैं कि क्रिस क्रॉस पैटर्न फॉलो हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा है. तो मदर से सन में और फादर से डॉटर में जीन ट्रांसफर हो रहे हैं, बट यहाँ पे फादर से सन में भी जीन ट्रांसफर हो रहे हैं. दैट मीन्स इट डज नॉट फॉलो द क्रिस क्रॉस पैटर्न. दैट मीन्स इट इज अ ऑटोसोमल डोमिनेंट ट्रेट, राइट? तो यहाँ पे हमें ये भी देखने को मिल रहा है कि अफेक्टेड पेरेंट्स जो हैं अनअफेक्टेड चिल्ड्रन को बर्थ देते हैं in the next generation. There are the unaffected children from the affected parent. Here we see that both the parents are affected, but this son is unaffected. So that means it is the autosomal dominant disorder. Got it? So moving towards the next question. Here we see that there is the skipping of generation. Where? Yes. Here in this family if we focus, there is the skipping of generation. Here both the parents are unaffected, but the children is being affected. So that means this is the recessive disease. Here both the parents are unaffected but they give birth to the affected child. तो यहाँ से हमें पता चलता है that there is the skipping of generation and this is going to be the recessive traits. Now let us see ये क्रिस क्रॉस पैटर्न फॉलो कर रहा है या नहीं कर रहा है. अगर हम यहाँ पर देखते हैं तो मेल जो है वो अनइफेक्टेड है, पर फीमेल यानी कि डॉटर जो है वो इफेक्टेड है. तो दैट मीन्स इट डज नॉट फॉलो द क्रिस क्रॉस पैटर्न. सो दैट मीन्स इट इज द ऑटोसोमल रिसेसिव disease, right? So it is autosomal recessive disease. Moving towards the next question. तो यहाँ पे आप देख रहे हो कि बिना किसी तरीके का पेडिग्री को सॉल्व किए हुए हम पेडिग्री को एनालाइज कर पा रहे हैं और हम ये जान पा रहे हैं कि क्या व्हाट इज द पैटर्न ऑफ द इनहेरिटेंस, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ डिजीज is there in the pedigree, right? So in this third question we will see that it is the dominant or the recessive one. If we see this example here, in the first generation there is the disease, again in the second generation there is the disease, in the third generation there is the disease, in the fourth generation there is the disease. Means the disease is the dominant one. Right? Now let us see that it is autosomal or sex linked. Now it is it follows the crisscross pattern. Here the father is affected and the daughter is affected. In this family, the mother is affected, its son is affected. In this family, the father is affected, its daughter is affected. So means it follows crisscross pattern. So what does it mean? It is sex-linked dominant disorder. Moving towards the another example. In this, we see that there is the skipping of generation. कहाँ दिख रहा है यहाँ पे आपको skipping of generation? In this family, right? In this family, both the parents are unaffected. Both the parents are unaffected, but their son is being affected. So when both the parents are unaffected, but the children is affected, so that type of disease is the recessive disease. अब हमें ये देखना है कि ऑटोसोमल है या सेक्स लिंक डिजीज है. सो इफ इट फॉलोज द क्रिस क्रॉस पैटर्न इट वुड बी सेक्स लिंक डिजीज. सो हियर इन दिस फैमिली वी सी दैट द मदर इज अफेक्टेड, देन इट्स सन आर बीइंग अफेक्टेड, right? So in that way it follows crisscross pattern. So what will be the answer of this question? It is sex linked recessive disease, right? So in that way, without solving the question, यहाँ पे हम कोई जीन नहीं लगा के देख रहे, कोई क्रोमोसोम नहीं लिख करके देख रहे, कहीं XY करके कहीं भी पनेट स्क्वायर बना के आपने नहीं देखा. Simply by identifying, by looking the clues, you can solve the problems in a few seconds, right? So in that way you can solve the problem of the pedigree analysis. So I hope this video will be very helpful to you, and please hit the like button and subscribe my YouTube channel padhailikhaizone for more fascinating insights into the world of genetics. Don't forget to share your thoughts and your questions in the comment section, and let's keep the conversation going. Thank you for joining us on this genetic adventure. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep uncovering the incredible stories written within our DNA. Stay curious. Bye bye. Thank you and have a nice day.